immediately from day one, when they come to that orientation session or they look through a computer, and all of a sudden you're the face of that institution. And you're the guidance counselor, you're the personal counselor, you're the academic counselor. So your role is pivotal in connecting them and guiding them through their academic journey at the institution that you're at. So thank you for what you do. I know all of us that are on different departments in our offices appreciate you. So yeah, we get to talk today about reentry. And I started thinking about space, because so much is going on right now with space, these private rockets going up, and then this rocket from China that recently was supposed to hit Earth, but nobody knew where, and it ended up, I think, in the Indian Ocean. That was fascinating to me. So when Jen and I were talking about going, re-entering the workplace, and I did have a great conference call with several of your officers last week, I thought, re-entry, how are we navigating this? So that's what I'm going to be talking about. And I first want to start with kind of the bigger picture, and that's the institution as a whole. And I found this incredible article. And in fact, that's how I kind of got the term the next normal, because we talk about the new normal as if we arrive and plant ourselves there. But if y'all know what I know, this last year, we don't plant anything. The minute we plant, it changes. So I loved the term the next normal, and it came from this particular article. And I've sent the article and another handout to Jen, and she's going to send that to y'all afterwards so that you'll have these resources. So I'm going to share the screen now because I want to be able to show you, let's see here, this article and some of the things that they said, because as I read it, I thought, oh my gosh, that's where we've been and that's where we're going. So let me show you this. Let's see. Here we go. And it was called Beyond Coronavirus, the Path to the Next Normal. And basically they said that every one of us are navigating through 5 stages. And you're going to recognize these stages because I certainly did. And we're in stage 3. So the first stage is crisis response. And so that's what we were all doing on our campuses as far as masks, as far as taping off doors and saying you can only go in this door, you can only come out this door, as far as telling people you can only have this many in a classroom or this many in an office space, or if you have a program, you can only have this many. Crisis response, Blackboard, whatever platform you used for online learning, we were just trying to respond. Testing, how available is testing going to be? And now vaccinations, how available are vaccinations at our institutions and on our campuses? So the first stage that we were navigating was our resolve to just take it one day at a time and survive. Okay. So then the next stage is resilience. Okay. We're in it. We've responded. We continue to respond as we wake up every day. And now we're noticing, okay, our numbers are down. Admissions is working twice as hard, but more and more people, either because of a loss of income, loss of jobs, they don't have the ability to go to college, or they've lost their scholarship, and or they've lost their job, which enabled them to go to college. So all of a sudden, we as an institution are dealing with these financial issues. And then maybe to the point where we have to ask ourselves, are we going to have to lay off staff? Are we going to have to contemplate merging classes together so that we're not offering as much, so that we can reduce the number of faculty or reduce the number of offerings? So we're juggling so many things in response to the virus. So we have the financial stress, the institutional productivity stress, and then the emotional stress that just comes on top of that. Maybe a colleague has decided to retire early. How many of us know that, of people that have just said, I'm out of here? I've had several friends that have retired, and it's been emotional to all of a sudden these people that I've worked with for years that have just decided in the midst of this, it's better for me to walk away. And I respect that. But it has an impact on the campus, loss of their leadership and their productivity, as well as just loss of those relationships. So our resilience during this. Then the third stage is returning. And y'all, that's where we are right now. And some of y'all are going to remain hybrid. You may be on campus some, you may remain virtual some. Some of you, Every single one of you are already back on campus, period. No option, you're in. And so you're trying to kind of readjust to that. Some of you completely from home still. And so every one of us are so diverse with all that's going on. But here's the thing, right now we're trying to decide, how much freedom do we have? You know, we were talking prior to the beginning of this with CDC's announcement yesterday about, hey, if you've had the vaccination, you don't have to wear a mask outside. It's optional if you wear a mask inside, depending on who you're with, how many you're with, if they've had their shots. And it's so, I was talking to them before the session about, it's almost animalistic. It's like we want to walk up to people and go, excuse me, have you had your shots? You know, like we're animals. And yet there's this curiosity and this anxiety is, okay, you've told me it's safe, but is it really? And it's kind of like Jenny said to me, is that mask is almost a sense of security. And am I ready to remove that? Am I ready to get rid of that? So when we're talking about returning to our institutions, to what extent are we allowing freedom? To what extent are we having flexibility? And are we comfortable with what the institution's telling us, with what the government's telling us? Because we're all on different playing fields when it comes to this. So returning is really huge. What should I expect? What does the institution expect? And what pace are we moving at? So then, and this is crazy, we go from returning to reimagining, because y'all, here's the thing. It's not going to be like it was pre-COVID. How many of y'all remember 9/11? Hands? Okay, do you remember pre 9/11 and post 9/11? Like when I tell my kids that we used to be able to sit at the gate at the airport and wait for somebody to get right off the plane and hand them flowers. Well, now you can't even get past the lobby of an airport, much less sit at a gate. Do you remember when the security, who ever thought we would be taking off our shoes? You know, pre 9/11, post 9/11, our world is different based on that event. Our world, in the same way, it's going to be pre-COVID, post-COVID. It's going to be different. Are we ready for that? And as a higher ed institution, what have we learned, and what are we going to reimagine based on what we've learned? Let me give you some examples. Online learning. Are we still online advising? Are you going to continue to where it may be hybrid, where you do some online advising, some face-to-face advising, all face-to-face advising? Have you had that discussion on what might work, what would work based on what you've been doing this past year and a half? I do face-to-face training on our campus, and I love face-to-face. I love getting to know people, being in the same room with them, doing role playing. But I can tell you at the end of this last year, I had employees emailing me going, keep the Zoom. Don't get rid of the Zoom. It's so cool. It's so easy to do a training session from my desk versus having to walk all the way across campus to the student center. So guess what? Next year, I'm looking at training and I'm reimagining, what does it look like after COVID? And it's going to be hybrid. I'm going to do face-to-face because I long for that, and I think there's great value in that. But I'm also going to do Zoom because I see the value in that as well, as far as accessibility, as far as bringing in speakers from other areas that I normally couldn't bring in, that I can because it's virtual. So, you know, I think about y'all as academic advisors, what has really worked well during COVID when it comes to the next normal? And having discussions about that. What do we need to keep in place versus letting it go? Because it's really been helpful. It's taken us to the next step when it comes to advising. So we're reimagining structure, reimagining, oh, here's another one, flexibility when it comes to jobs. I was on the phone with our HR director last week, and we were talking about how we have discovered that there are some people on our campus who have the ability and the professionalism to work completely from home based on what they do. And, you know, if we can't pay them what a corporation can pay, wouldn't that flexibility be the thing that might keep them with us instead of leaving because of a low salary? So what can we use in HR as far as hiring and working with individuals, parents of small children that may like the attractiveness of working part-time from home, part-time at the institution? So right now we're looking at flex hours. We're looking at training. We're looking at virtual learning. How much is hybrid? How much is face-to-face? And another one that I just this past week is one of my colleagues here was talking about live streaming programs and how they've done these live streams on, through social platforms, and the attendance has been incredible. And so they're not going to stop the live stream. They've decided we are going to go back to live programming on campus, but we're also going to continue live streaming virtually because it's worked. So my question to you is, what are you reimagining as you enter this next normal before you get to the next normal? And that gets to the final stage, which is reform. And that's where you sit around and you talk about, wow, this worked, this hasn't worked. Let's look at how we're going to move forward as academic advisors and what the next normal is going to look like. What are we going to change based on what we've learned from this last 1.5 to 2 years? I love, can you tell how excited? I read this article and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. And I think if we as teams on our campuses sat down and really talked about these stages and what we want, what our expectations are, what our pace is going to be, what we agree on, it can really be productive and effective as an institution. So think about that, okay? Now, I really want to move from institutional, the bigger picture, to personally. Where are we individually when it has come to this last 1.5 years? Because we are all over the board. So I want to show a quick video to get you thinking.
Whoa, that's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are 2 people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do, is there?
I love that video. And I think there are times when we've all experienced seasons or things in our lives where we're paralyzed. We just kind of stop and we're frozen. We don't know what to do next. And obviously there were options for them. There were options right in front of them. But for whatever reason, that particular incident just had them stuck. And I don't know where you are today. Right now, you may be feeling stuck. You may be feeling fuzzy, like you're back, but you're not really back. You're there physically, but not mentally. Maybe you're excited, you're ecstatic to be back, and you're like ahead of it. Maybe based on the experiences you've had this last 1.5 years, it's been emotional. And so you're just all over the place. So I want to do a quick exercise, and I want y'all to participate on chat, okay? I want you to look at these pictures, and I want you to think which one of these represents where you've been this year, and maybe where you currently are. When you think about this last 1.5 years, from last March until now, which picture kind of overall represents how you've been emotionally and mentally, okay? And so I want you in the chat just to put which one and why. Just a couple of words, hey, this one because. And we're gonna kind of read through these, okay? I'm gonna pull it up. The boat, the rainbow, lake on a boat to feel free. Okay, boat, not sure why. Not sure if there are paddles. I like that. Oh, the sunset, enjoying the time together, trying to maximize this time. Rainbow with the storm. The bottom left, all of the place. Rain clouds, rainbow, the winding road. So maybe a road, but not as straight. The drifting in the boat. Wow. Yeah, the road, because the road changes consistently. Lots of ups and downs with the rainbow and the clouds. Keep coming. These are great. The sunset at home, all over the place. Anybody else? These are really good. It's been good. And see, that's encouraging. For a lot of people, it's been good. Curvy roads, it's been emotional. Keep moving, praying. Rough year, but the rainbow offers promise. Wow. Things will get better. Yeah. That's really good, y'all. I'll tell you, when I did this, when I started pulling this exercise together, I could kind of relate. I'm looking here to Yvette's comment about the rainbow and the storm. I was telling some of them before we started, I had COVID pneumonia and I literally missed 3 weeks of work. And it was one of the scariest things I've ever been through. And my husband had COVID to the point where he had to have a transfusion. So we were both pretty sick. And there was like 6 or 7 weeks in the calendar of this year that I don't really remember. But I will tell you, it was like the tornado hit, but at the same time, in the midst of that tornado was the rainbow. And that was the phone calls, the cards, the people checking in on us, coming out of it and realizing that I was going to get better, that my husband got better. Whereas, you know, we're reading a lot about long haulers, individuals who've had COVID, who continue to have symptoms regardless of the virus running itself through their body. So out of my experience came gratitude and learning and growth in the midst of the tornado. So when I look at all of these pictures, I can relate to that one as well. And I think it's fascinating. This is a great exercise to do if you work with a student group on your campus and you just want to hear how students are doing, or if you want to get with your team in your office, all the advisors together, and just say, hey, and you can add your own pictures, but just kind of say, where are you? Where are you right now coming back as you re-enter? And kind of just show some visuals and get people to open up about where they are. One thing we have got to do on reentry, we've got to communicate with one another. We can't assume that everybody's good, we're going forward, no big deal. You know, I was walking on campus a couple of weeks ago, and as I walked, a little golf cart came by, and it was an employee from Aramark. Well, I've done hardly any catering this year because everything's virtual. And this was a colleague that works for Aramark that I had not seen literally in since last April, almost 15 months. So she asked if she could give me a ride to my car, and I jumped on the golf cart. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've missed you so much. Are you doing okay? And how are things? And she took one look at me and said, Shar, you don't know, do you? And I'm like, no, what? And she said, my mom died from COVID. Well, her mom works on our campus and I'm friends with her mom. And so all of a sudden, in the middle of the day in a golf cart, we pull over in a parking lot and she's crying and I'm crying and she's telling me her COVID story. And I tell you that because we don't know each other's stories. We've been isolated. You know, we've been focused. We've been putting all of our energy in just trying to survive ourselves and do our jobs. And so you don't know when that student has that call, that meeting with you about advising, where they're coming from when it comes to this. Are they scared? Are they vulnerable? Have they had a family member, or have they been ill? Have they been to a funeral recently of someone? And then not only our students, but our colleagues. You know, who down the hall, who in the other department across the campus has dealt with this in a totally different way. So going back to normal is going to be faster for some people than others. And even then, it's not going to be normal. It's going to be different. So it's important that you create a space for people to have conversations, to ask questions. How are you doing? Not to get the fine, I'm good, how are you? Fine. Really, how are you? And to have those kind of conversations in your team meetings, as well as you work with your students as they come in front of you. So some things to think about. Okay, so we're going to move forward. Our responses to the pandemic are as diverse as the people who have suffered from the virus. And isn't that the truth? Everybody has their COVID story if they've had COVID, and it's as different as night and day. And how many of us, if we told our stories about vaccinations, some of us went, shopping within an hour afterwards. Some of us couldn't get out of bed after the vaccination. So it's just as diverse with that as how we're dealing with all of this. So here's a quick fun quiz on how you've dealt with this pandemic. What's your quarantine score? All right, I want you to calculate points. How many of you actually got out of bed? How many of you ever even styled your hair or put on makeup? Get real. Or did you brush your teeth? Did you even think about brushing your teeth? Did you cook breakfast or just grab a yogurt, something quick? Showered? And then we certainly have to talk about pants. Did they all have elastic? Did anything you own recently have a waistband with a button? So once again, what's your score here when it comes to quarantine and how you navigated quarantine? Because we all did it a little bit different. I love this quote. Raise your hand if you also need a little pause from life and its stress. You need a little wine, $5 million, a flat stomach, and your own island. How many of us are there right now? Give me COVID relief, okay? Give me COVID relief. Whatever it is on your list. It may include this, it may not. But all of us are like, help me here. So I'm going to talk about, those stages we're navigating in this institution. I'm going to talk about how do we navigate reentry as an individual, as a professional on our collegiate campus. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the 4 C's. And these are things that I have personally done and I am in the midst of doing, because I'm one of these that whatever you put in front of me, I'm going to ask myself, how am I growing? What am I doing with this in a positive reactive way instead of a negative reactive way? So that's what I want you to think about. So the first C is character. I will never forget when I went off to graduate school at the University of South Carolina, I was homesick, lonely, poor, had no money to my name, felt isolated, didn't know anybody. The only time I got a phone call was if it was a wrong number or a family member. And so I was 842 miles from home and overwhelmed. And one night in particular, I called my father, who was my mentor, my knight in shining armor. And I was just in the lowest point I can remember. And I was like, what was I thinking? Why did I do this? What am I, I'm not happy. And I'll never forget, after I unloaded on my father, he basically said these things, Shar, this builds character. That ticked me off. I didn't. Have you ever been told something like that and you're not ready to hear it or absorb it? And in a very angry voice, I told my father, Dad, I want to be characterless. I want to be characterless. If this is what it takes, forget it. And I will tell you, for years, my father would bring that story up and we would crack up laughing. He's like, whenever something hard happened, he would go, Shar, you want to be characterless? And we would just start laughing. Because y'all, isn't it hard to build character? Isn't it hard? And COVID is building character in us. It is, but it's hard. So I'm going to ask you now, right now, I want you to post this in chat, okay? What have you learned this past year and a half because of COVID? How's it grown you? All right, that's my question. What are you learning, or what have you learned? Either present or past. Let's read. That you like Zoom, yeah. How to adapt. Self-care. Ooh, can control external forces. Ooh. Now you know you love working from home, yeah. Oh, hugs. Oh, time. Showing emotions to our students, that our students really enjoy the Zoom advising. Yeah, I get that. what's really important in your life. Yeah, I think it surprised us how many of us like technology in this way. I know it surprised me because I am not a technology person. So that's interesting seeing all this, to be adaptable. I am not meant to teach my children. Amen. Oh my goodness, how to be more patient. Oh, these are so good, y'all. So here's the thing, keep learning, keep asking yourself. When you're in the midst of a challenge, you know, keep planting this word in your mind, growth, growth, growth. What is the growth here? What am I learning through this? And I've given you some other questions. What am I learning? How am I stretching myself? Several of us have stretched ourselves just using this technology. This wasn't normal for us before. So the fact that we've learned it and some of us are even comfortable with it, that's great. What's the negative from this? What's the positive from this? And now I want to ask you this last question, and I want you to put it in chat because I'm really curious. All the people that you've watched, either in media, any form of media, family members, colleagues that you work with, who do you want to emulate? Who's handled this well? Who do you want to emulate? And what is it about them that you want to say, I want to handle it better because of this person? Here's what they did. Let's share that. I'm really curious to see, who do you want to emulate? Okay, your mom. Who do you want to emulate? Joe Biden, his empathy. Okay, good. You know, I'd put Fauci. I like Fauci. I think he's cute. And I just like that he's factual. Because I'm hungry for facts. I don't want what's going to make me feel better. I just want you to tell me what's going on. So for me, it's been Fauci. I always look forward to him. Anybody else? Anybody else you want to emulate? Michelle Obama. Yeah. Tim Tebow. Yeah, a recent interview with him, and it's amazing what he's doing. Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her legacy. Yeah. Anybody else? The persistence of my coworkers. Yeah. My mom. Oh, wow. A caregiver. Wow. Yeah, Chrissy Teigen. She does have a unique sense of humor, but she makes you laugh. That's for sure. Y'all, these are great. So here's my question. Would someone say they want to emulate you? Oh, I'm getting some more. Some of my students, they've taken everything. Now, songs, what songs are hilarious? The Holderness Family. I'm going to have to find out who the Holderness Family is. That's new to me. Okay, we'll have to share that. But the challenge for character is, would people want to emulate how we've handled it? You know, and I would say it depends on the day for me, because some days I'm fine and other days I'm not. But I want us to focus on what it is that we're learning and what we're doing. I love this quote. I love this quote from Martin Luther King. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you got to keep moving forward. And y'all, that's what we've got to do as professionals in higher education. We got to keep moving. It's hard. Are we paralyzed on that escalator, or are we taking the next step? Not knowing exactly what's going to be the next normal, but just knowing with what I have right now, here's what I need to do. So what is it that we're doing every day right now? Well, right now we're turning chaos into order, okay? Because it's chaos constantly, it's changing. So here's some things to think about in your current workplace, whether it's hybrid, all in, still at home, and that is whatever your reality is, acknowledge that reality and be at peace with it. This is the season I'm in. Here's how I'm handling that. Then organize your workspace. You know, I came back and my office there's stacks everywhere. So I am trying to organize, because I've been at home and I've been on my dining room table. So now I'm trying to come back in and kind of organize, because that helps me mentally as I re-enter this place. Okay. So just taking that workspace and trying to bring order to it will help you with your emotions and your mindset as you come back into that setting. Or you may still be at home and you need to create a certain workspace so that it helps you, it contributes to your ability to focus. Okay, which is another thing, and then that's your routine. Just getting back into the routine. Maybe you've been working from home, so you might start a little bit later, like 8:30 after your first cup of coffee, and you've woken up, and maybe you work until 5 instead of 4:30, or whatever your structure is. But now that may have changed according to what the expectations are. So trying to get back into a routine or create a routine. And I will tell you, this is where we have to be careful. I don't know about y'all, but boundaries are kind of fuzzy, because when you were home, your emails, phone calls may have been all over the place, or maybe you had the ability to turn things off. I didn't. So I was doing emails at 8 o'clock at night, or I was checking things, 7 a.m. in the morning as I made my oatmeal. And so now it's like, okay, am I still going to be that flexible, or I'm going to have more work-related boundaries so that I have a life outside of my job? So that routine, you need to kind of reassess where you are. And for right now, these next 3 weeks, these are the guidelines or the boundaries I set until I know the next normal. Okay. Otherwise, we can be all over the place. And then, y'all, here's the deal. Don't beat yourself up if you're struggling. Can I say that again? Don't beat yourself up if you're struggling. What we've been through and are going through is hard. This is just hard. So don't go where everybody else seems. Comparison is the worst thing we can do. Well, she seems to be doing great, or he's on a roll, and I can't focus. Be real with yourself. And maybe you need to see someone. Maybe you need to have a counselor to sit down with you. Maybe you need some space. Maybe you need to talk to a colleague or your supervisor and just say, I am really struggling here. And that's okay. So don't beat yourself. Guilt is the last thing that you need to put on right now. Okay. When I think of these last months at home, this is what I think of. This is what my day looked like. My dining room table, my laptop, sweatpants. I don't know if you can tell, those are sweatpants, and my dog Obi, who every single day it started with the paw on the leg, like, are you here for me? Are we going to play? What's going on? Why are you sitting there? That was my life for months and months and months as I got into that routine. And now that's changed. And I'm trying to navigate that particular change. Let's look at this funny video when it comes to working from home.
Technology kills viruses in just one. What did you do, Mom? Dad, holy crap.
Ya quedó, ya solamente tenemos que registrar autonomía curricular y el área socioemocional de los niños, porque esa parte no está quedando bien. Perdón.
Goodbye. All right.
Perdón.
Talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
See you guys.
Whoops.
Tony!
Can he hear us?
Tony!
Oh no. Don't. Jen, call him. Oh my gosh. Hold on, I'm gonna text a couple pictures of that. Oh. Oh. Oh boy.
What's up?
Tony, I can see you when you're
We can all see you.
And this meditation is great for bringing about a sense of relaxation, well-being, and calm. So starting just quickly by breathing in and breathing out. And it's really challenging, I know, with children home from school and working from home, but just trying to just keep all of those distractions out of the way.
Maple, can you stop just for a second? 3, 2, 1. More cold air. 3, 2, 1. Cold air continues across the area tonight. Potential for some frost and freeze for some of us. Warm up, it's going to take... Hey, hey, come here. Come here. Come here. Sit. 3, 2, 1. Frost and freeze for some of us again tonight. The cold air is lingering through much of the week. We'll show you when the best chance of precipitation is with Futurecast. Maple. 3, 2, 1. Maple, excuse me. Hello, come here. Come here. Come here. Do you want to be in this tease? Is that what you want? Come here. Just lean up here. I can do this. 3, 2, 1. Another night where we may have frost or a freeze for some of us. And the cool weather, it's sticking around for much of the week. We'll show you when the warm-up finally gets here.
Y'all, I have watched that so many times, and every time I watch it, it makes me laugh. It just makes me feel so good. And how many of us can relate to that? Some of you with children, you can relate to that. Some of you with pets, you know, it's just, or some of you, and I've even heard stories of people that have seen some rather curious people in the way they're dressed or undressed. So, you know, sometimes you just got to laugh. And it made me think of this quote. It's a courageous act to just be with whatever is happening at the moment. All of it, the difficult as well as the wonderful. You know, it just takes courage to be in the midst of it. And that's what we're doing, y'all. Give yourself credit for just living in it and navigating it as it happens, okay? So while we're navigating it, we've also got to think about how can we remain calm during it. And that's the next thing I want to talk about, because y'all, what I'm about to say is not going to be a surprise to any of you when it comes to how we've responded to this virus as a nation. There's an incredible report that's been done to look at the anxiety and the anxiousness and depression of our individuals all over the country in response to this virus. So you can look at this from 2019 to the percentage of households that have reported an increase in anxiety or depression. Hello, not a surprise. Now, this next chart I found fascinating because look at these ages, the ages of 18 to 24 and the percentage of those reporting anxiety or depression. Y'all, that's who we work with, the majority of us. Now, certainly some of us have more non-traditional students that will be in these other age categories, okay? Some of us work with traditional college age students, but you look at these numbers, but hey, look at the number of adults age 25 to 49. It's almost 50% of those individuals reporting an increase in anxiety or depression. And what does that mean? Lack of sleep, eating disorders, or eating difficulties, either overeating or undereating. Certainly another aspect of this anxiety or depression is substance abuse, whether it's alcohol, opioids, some other form of substance, and utilizing that to help cushion that anxiety or depression. And so this could represent our colleagues. This can represent our students. So not being overwhelmed by it, but trying to understand people's perspective and where they're coming from. You know, as I think about y'all, as you work with students and as they sit in front of you, whether that's a computer or face-to-face shortly, you know, you discover many things about them. Maybe they're coming from a horrific family situation, a dysfunctional family. Maybe they've had a financial crisis, loss of job, change of job, loss of scholarship. Maybe they're coming out and you're the first person they've even told that to because they feel safe with you. I can't imagine the information that is entrusted with you. And you've got an option here. You either take it in and listen and be a support, and you kind of understand it and navigate it, or you put it on and all of a sudden you have layer after layer after layer, and it's overwhelming. It's truly overwhelming. And this is where when I'm talking to individuals, you know, I said, when we're made aware, we need to ask ourselves, what ability do I have to assist this person based on what I now know? Okay, so there's awareness and assistance. But here's what we don't do: ownership. You can't own it. Because if I think of y'all as a collective body starting to own everything you've been entrusted with, you talk about anxiety and depression. So there's certainly the awareness and the assistance, but then also knowing what you have the ability to do and what you do not have the ability to do. So as far as self-care, ask yourself, what do I tend to own that's really not mine to own? What do I need to let go of? And how can I assist this person? I found this incredible chart about what we can control and not control when it comes to the virus. I just thought this was amazing. Things that I can control, okay? How I spend my time, how much time I spend on social media. Am I regulating that to where I'm not overwhelmed, okay? Self-talk, the things that I say to myself or the things that I say to other people, all of these things I can control. But y'all, things that you can't control, look at here at the bottom, other people's behaviors, other people's decisions. It's those students' decisions, finally, when it comes to their academics and what they want to do. You can educate, you can guide, but ultimately it is their decisions and their lives. Other people's thoughts and ideas, what the government does, what the institution does. There are just some things that are beyond our control. So not taking those on in addition to everything else. And I think when we kind of identify what we have control and don't have control, it gives us a sense of calmness. Now, the queen of calmness, I'm going to say, is Dr. Brené Brown. I don't know if you've read her books. She started a podcast when COVID started last spring, and it's called Unlocking Us. And she's continued the podcast, and she now has a second podcast called Dare to Lead on leadership. And y'all, if you've never heard her podcasts, they're incredible. And I listen to these on a daily basis when I walk my dog Obi. But I'll never forget walking last April with Obi and hearing this particular podcast about how to remain calm in the midst of chaos. And I think I listened to it twice because sometimes I'm thick-headed and I need to hear it the second time around. And so I encourage you to go to this particular podcast, Unlocking Us, and look for this. It was last spring, early on when the country was dealing with COVID. But she was basically saying there are 3 steps on how we can cultivate calm, how we can practice being calm. And I tend to be a little high-strung. So I will tell you, this was good for me. Good for me to the point that after I got home from my walk, I found the podcast. I went to the website to get the content and I printed it because I thought I need to practice this. I need to be intentional about being better when it comes to calm. So you can read this about our response rate instead of just all of a sudden taking off with a response and being all over the map, really reflecting on what are the facts. Is this worth getting upset about? You know, do I have enough information to freak out or not freak out? And by freaking out, how am I making other people around me feel? Whether that's the students or the colleagues that I work with. So great information about being calm. So I highly encourage you to do that. Another way that we're being calm is just breathing exercises or things that we can do at our desk. And I will tell you, I've sent a handout with links to breathing exercises that you can do at your desk, with also some suggestions on how to be calmer, some things to do as an expression of that. So Jen will be sending those to you. I talked to our director of counseling center, Dr. Susan Sobel, who's a good friend of mine. And I said, Susan, do you just have a really easy breath exercise that would be good just for people to start practicing? And she said, oh yeah, I've got one that I use all the time. So we're going to do it. And here it is. I'm going to explain it, and I want everybody to do it wherever you're seated. But basically, she said, Char, this is so easy to remember. And she said, it is amazing, the research and how it reinforces how much this helps us calm down when we just breathe correctly. So she said, basically pretend that you're smelling a flower, you know? So I love flowers. So she said, just like you got your face to a flower and you're just going, whether it's a gardenia or a rose, whatever is in front of you. So she said, just think of just taking that in. And then she said, and then thinking about blowing out a candle on a birthday cake. So I want everybody right now, I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and then we're going to smell the flower and blow out the candle. And take time going in and take time going out, okay? 3, 2, 1. I've got a lot of candles, so I had to, kind of elongate that. Isn't that good? So she said, Char, even if you just did that a few times each day, morning, midday, and afternoon, it would make a difference. So something to think about when it comes to calm, asking ourselves those questions and also breathing exercises. Okay, so we've talked about character. We've talked about taking chaos to order and bringing order and routine wherever we are in reentry. And then we've talked about the calmness and how important it is. And so I want to end with this one, and that's comfort. What are we doing when it comes to comforting ourselves, but also comforting those around us? Because, man, we have a circle of influence, y'all. We have a circle of influence. One of you responded when I said, who do you want to emulate? And one of you responded, my coworkers and how they're dealing with this. I tell people all the time, people, if you don't think you're being watched, screw up. We're all being watched. Our students watch us, our colleagues watch us. So we have an opportunity to be a positive influence in the midst of this reentry, with our calmness, with our character, our integrity, and certainly in how we reach out and take care of other people. But y'all, you got to take care of yourself too. You can't drive a car that has no gas, all right? You got to fuel yourself. So how do we comfort one another and how we take care of ourselves? I'm going to start with comforting other people. Ask people where they are. Brene Brown, in one of her podcasts that I listened to, said that when their family sits around the table for a meal, especially during COVID, they would ask their children, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? And if anybody responded less than a 6, they would turn their full attention to that person and say, what's gone on today? Tell us why you're where you're at. Help us understand where you're at, why you're at a 4, why you're at a 2, what's happened today. So what if you had a code with your colleagues? What if y'all had a code and you came in every day and said, hey, 1 to 10, where you at? Or at a team meeting, you just ask. And if anybody around that table was struggling and identified that struggle with a low number, you would all focus on that person. Where you at? What's going on? How can we help? So personal assessment scale is a really good way to assess where everybody is in reentry and who needs particular attention that particular day. The second thing is a needs assessment. I highly recommend this on reentry. Whether you're doing this as a team over Zoom or around a conference table, is to go around and give index cards and make it anonymous if you want, but ask your people, what do you need to successfully re-enter the workplace? What do you need? What do you need from one another? What do you need from the institution? What do you need from me as your supervisor? And then gather those index cards and walk through them. Do you need more resources? Do you need just a time to come together and kind of just share? What do you need? Do a needs assessment. Things have changed. So assess people right now where they're at on that reentry, and then address those needs. Let me tell you something. If you don't address the needs, don't do it, because then it's a joke. So don't ask. I hate it when people ask and have questionnaires and then you never hear anything. Well, then why did I do it? If you're going to ask me what I need, respond to what I need. Now, it may not be feasible, but if it's not feasible, tell me. Jen can say, sure, it's not feasible for this to happen, but I heard you. So do a needs assessment. The other thing is you cannot over communicate right now. You cannot over communicate. What people need to hear regularly is, where are we? Where are we? Right now, our institutions in the president's office all over the state are probably huddling, trying to figure out what to tell their people on their campuses based on what was announced yesterday. And as soon as they release that information to a campus email, your team should get together to respond to that. How are we feeling? Well, how are we going to navigate this in the advising section based on what the president's office just told us? What does that mean? So you cannot huddle. And if your huddle is over Zoom for 10 minutes, if your huddle is in the lobby spread apart 6 feet with mask on, but you're telling, it's better to have a quick meeting and communicate than people feeling like they're out there alone. So communication is critical. Connect. I'm going to send a text to someone. I'm going to send an email. I'm going to ask how people are. I'm going to do check-ins. If any of you on this particular Zoom are supervisors, I recommend that each week you check into a certain person on your team. You know, you may have 20 or 30 people, then each week pick out one, but do check-ins. Some of you have developed strong relationships with students. Check in on them. How you doing? Where you're at? Where are you at? Are you okay? Maybe it's a colleague of yours that's really struggling with small children, or that's a caregiver for somebody who's older or who has lost someone because of COVID. Check in. Check in, check in. Extremely important. And then self-care. Y'all, like I said, you can't drive a car if you don't have any fuel. So what are you doing personally to take care of yourself? You know, here are some things to think about. Just every morning, wake up with gratitude and ask yourself, what are 3 things this morning that I am grateful for? And let me tell you, as a survivor of COVID pneumonia, I'm all about gratitude. I'm just so grateful I can walk my dog again. I took that for granted. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to walk my dog. I'm so grateful. What are you grateful for? There is something liberating about thankfulness. So gratefulness, contacts. Who are you reaching out? Who are you keeping in touch with? Who is feeding into you, pouring into you? That's a positive force in your life. Surround yourself by those people. Exercise, I can't emphasize enough how much it helps, whatever form it is. Maybe it's swimming laps, maybe it's hiking, maybe it's boxing. I don't know, but find something that exerts your body, because chemically that does wonders for you physically, but also for your mind. The arts, oh my gosh. You know, whether it's music, you playing an instrument, listening, whether it's you painting, drawing, spirituality, whether it's prayer, reading the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, meditating, but acknowledging that you're not it and reaching out to that higher power, whatever your belief system is. I know there's a variety of here. So that having access to that spirituality, sleeping, making sure, you know, there have been so many studies about how the amount of time that we get a good restful sleep, how it impacts our mind and our ability to navigate work and family. Same thing with what we put into our body as far as our diet. And then what is your outlet? And I've got a handout for you that Jen will be sending about just different ways. Is it gardening? Is it getting dirt all over your hands? Maybe it's mowing the lawn, maybe it's taking your kids to a park and flying a kite, but finding an outlet where you can think of other things and experience other things besides what you're experiencing right now. So here are some suggestions. Know that you're not alone. We're all in this together. Think about how much time you spend on your phone looking at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. There's nothing wrong with social media unless it's excessive. And the things that we're looking at feed our mind in a negative way instead of a positive. Think about your routine. Look out for others. Talk about other things besides the virus. And then give mindfulness where what it is you're putting in your mind, which goes back to all of these things, pour into what it is that's in our mind. So give that, all of these things, be intentional about these things to help you navigate this. So final exercise. When you've heard about all of this, what do you think you need to continue? What are you doing well right now? What's working when it comes to being an advisor, being on your campus, working from home, navigating family? Maybe you're a caregiver, maybe you're working with an organization. What's working? What do you need to stop doing and what do you want to start doing? 3 major questions right now as you re-enter. What are you going to be intentional about? I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to turn off my phone at a certain time, or I'm going to set boundaries, or I'm going to reach out more. Based on those 3 questions, I just want to hear, and it could be any answer to any one of these 3 in the chat. What are your thoughts based on what you've heard today? And then we're wrapping up. It could be on any of this. What's your response to today? Better phone boundaries. Yep. Communication. Wow, that's so important. Can't over communicate right now, y'all. People need to hear from one another. Anybody else? Anything else in response to this? Spend more time in nature. Amen. Boundaries, check-ins. Oh, so important. Check-ins. Yeah. Y'all, even if you do that one thing, it will make a huge difference. More hikes. You're speaking my language. Thank you, Yvette. Check-in. Anybody else? Then we're going to wrap up. Stop overcommitting. That is so funny you said that. My niece called me this morning. She is a mother of 3 kids, and she was out walking and called me, and she said, Miss Shar, she said, Aunt Shar, I heard something the other day that really is helping me. It says that no is a sentence. No, period. You don't have to add anything else. You can just say no. And I'm like, oh, I like that. No is a sentence. I can just say no. So yeah, we got to learn that no can just be no with a period. We're good. Don't need to do it. Well, I'm going to close with this last thing because I want to honor Jen's time. Be mindful of students. Oh, y'all are awesome. These responses are incredible. I want to share, Yvette kind of mentioned in her responses, hiking and nature. Somebody else responded nature. And when I love the trails of Arkansas, and one of the ways that I've navigated COVID is being out in nature. It fills my soul. And so I want to close with this final poem because it really resonated with me on where we are right now. It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we've come to our real work. And when we no longer know which way to go, we've really begun the real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sinks. Wow. Right now, we are all impeded. Okay? We have got rocks in the middle of our streams. What sound are we making? Are we producing a positive response? Are we guiding other people and helping them navigate this stream? Are we people that other people want to emulate based on our attitude and our professionalism? Is this hard? Yeah, Identify what's going to carry you through. Be intentional with what you identify and keep moving forward. We're in it and we're going to make it. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. It was such a delight to have you here today. And I know you're just in time. It's just felt just in time. Thank you everyone again. If I could just take like 5 minutes of your time and then I promise I'll set you free. I said this at the beginning, but I just wanted to thank you all for sticking with us during this very challenging year. And I wanted to thank all the board members. I think more of them are here now. Danielle Jolie, can you do a little wave, Danielle? Is there incoming Arcan president? Jill Wheeler, your past president. I think we have Autumn. I saw Autumn again. QB's here. You could just do a little wave. Zach, Krista Nelson, are you here? I think you are. Austin and Shanna Turney. I don't think Austin's here, but Shanna Turney, our treasurer. I just wanted to thank all of you so much for being a support system for me this year. And I'm really pleased with everything that we were able to do, from Lunch and Learns to a podcast that we launched and other things. And I hope that to see you all next year as members. We're going to send more information out about that this summer. But we have elections coming. So next week, you're going to get an email. And I really hope that you will consider running for office. We have vacant right now, president-elect. You must have served on the Arcan board for that position. VP membership, secretary, 2-year public institution rep, 4-year public institution rep, and a private institution rep. So I'll send more information with a little more detail about each of those positions. And we'll open up you can nominate yourself, you can nominate another person, and then we'll vote and have a new board. And hopefully next year we can get back to doing some more in-person things and even have a conference. Woohoo! Since we've been thwarted the last 2 years on that one. But I wanted to thank you all. This has been a great year for me. I've learned a lot in this position, especially during this time. And I know Jill, as president when COVID hit, it was also quite eye-opening for all of us. But we managed to stick together and do some really cool things and bring people together and network anyway. And so thank you all for your participation. And with that, I hope that you all have a wonderful summer. I know SOAR orientation is coming. We start next week. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again next year as members as well. Anyone else on the board want to add anything?
I would just say, Charlotte, you definitely got a lot of shout outs, and we deeply, deeply appreciate your time and just your words today. I know I took several notes and I was like, yes, I feel that. I feel that. I feel that. So thank you for making the information and the professional development so relevant for all of us today.
Yes, and I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Charlotte, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to thank Danielle for the feedback. That means a lot to me. It was real helpful for me. You know, y'all know, anytime you prepare something, you're the first learner. And so it was real good for me. It reinforced me, but I do hope it was encouraging. So thank you.
I did record this, so if you're interested and you want to share it with members of your team, we can send that out and post it on our website. And I will also be sending all the handouts from today as well. So look for those. But if you have someone who couldn't make it today, let me know and I'll get the recording to them.
Be sure to check out the podcast if you want to know more about being a part of the board. So if you're a little concerned, not sure if we're the people you want to surround yourself with, we are. And a little precursor, I'm looking at you, Belinda. Belinda, maybe you should be part of Arcan board. Whitney, I see you. Whitney, maybe you should be a part of Arcan board. So this is me asking you to be a part of the Arcan board.
Jill gets us all in the end, so you may as well just surrender. But please, yeah, check out our podcast and you can hear all about it. and about how fun and funny we all are.
There's no hiding from Jill.
Nope, absolutely not. You can run, but you can't hide. Thank you all again, and thank you, Charlotte. This was amazing, and have a great weekend. And we'll see.
I wish y'all all the best. Hang in there.
Thank
Let me know if I
you.
can be any help. Jen has my contact information. If y'all need anything, we're in this together. So if you need anything, just let me know. And thank you for the opportunity to share with your group. I appreciate it.
Thank you
So much.